Hello everyone and welcome back to Football Manager 2020 and the first proper experiment of the new game. It's the annual experiment where we take a look at what would happen if a non-league team had £1 billion pumped into it. And the team we are using this time around is Blyth Spartans down in the Vanarama National League North. They're quite an interesting team, bounced around the 7th and 6th tier of English football. Currently got Lee Clark, a former Newcastle favourite, at the helm. He's had 2 stints with Newcastle if we look at his career stats. Also a good period of time with Fulham and a team that we won't dwell on too long. And then also they've got Callum Roberts in there as one of their star players, another former Newcastle player. So a nice little Newcastle run through the team there. No vice captain at the moment. Maybe that will become Callum Roberts. They've got a 4,400 capacity stadium, but they haven't really achieved much in their time as a club. You can see 2 victories in the Northern Premier League in 2006 and 2017, and then quite a few Northern League Division 1 titles, but no cup competitions, nothing outside of that. They are a semi-professional team from 1899, so it's time to give them a good, sustained period of success. And the way that we will do that is by using the in-game editor, editing the club details, and then just changing their finances up to £900 million. I know that's not £1 billion, but if you make it £1 billion, if they get any income whatsoever, it ticks the counter over from 1 billion to minus 1 billion because of the way the game works. So that's why we set it at 900 million. We're not going to change anything else at this point. We will leave it like that. But it will be interesting how financial fair play hinders this experiment as we go certainly into league football. I think they'll start failing it pretty much straight away. So what we're going to do today is go forward 10 years into the future and see they could be in the Premier League by that point. We actually have no idea. They will probably pay a huge tax hit on that £1 billion that they've received, so they won't have £1 billion by the time we get there. But it'll be interesting to see if they do manage to make it up through the leagues quite quickly or not. If you are looking forward to this experiment, do drop a like down below. Let me know you'd like to see another part after the 10 years is done. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. There are lots more experiments, tactics, series, everything you could need for Football Manager on the channel. And if you have any questions, let me know down in the comments. But let's go forward 10 years and see how they managed to get on. Well, we are now 10 years ahead. We're just going to run through each of their league campaigns to see how they've managed to get on since the experiment began. You can see, first off, a couple of wins, but then a really rough patch of form, followed by quite a nice purple patch of form, where they did do quite well in the FA Cup, getting through to the first round, being smashed 5-0 by Oxford. Not great there. No great success in the league, though. A nice mid-table finish in their first year. The second year is where the transfer budget really would have kicked in, and more importantly, the wage budget for bringing in players. But it still didn't go that well. Good, bad form followed by good form, and then inconsistent form. A little bit better this time around, especially the finish to the year. Looks like somebody may have got sacked around this point, and a new manager came in. The following year, still hovering around the mid-table point after the previous season, but doing a little bit better in the league this time around. Not so well in the cups, but they do fail to make the playoffs for another year. The following season, you can see much better, very much more consistent. Quite a few defeats here, but they include cup competitions, and a good finish to the season as well. Meant they made the playoffs, but did lose in the first playoff round. They have the first round, semis, and the final, so they did not make it to the playoff semis. The following year, again, really rough patch at the beginning, but then they do manage to kick on, do very well in the various cup competitions, through in the FA Trophy first round, but out in the second round. But they did not make the playoffs. These run of draws and defeats, 1 win in the last 2 months, just meant they miss out on the playoffs again. The following year, though, you can see it got off to a perfect start, nearly, just that 1 defeat in there. And that really set them up for an excellent challenge up the league table, doing well in the cup competitions as well. But they did manage to win the league this year despite this final day defeat, finishing as champions with 105 points, I seem to remember. And then the following year, finally in the Vanarama National League for the first time. But again, it's quite a consistent start to the season, but then it starts to fall off the rails a little bit around the mid-table bit or midpoint of the season. And then a lot of draws, a lot of defeats creeping in meant they made the playoffs, but again, out in the first round, this time losing to Solihull Moors, not Solihull Motors, as I quite often mispronounce them. But the following year, they do manage to do very well again in the Vanarama National League, charging up the table. A few defeats around the Christmas period, but then they kick on brilliantly, and they do actually manage to get promoted as champions from the Vanarama National League to make it to league football for the first time. It wasn't the best of starts to their time in league football. No league win until the 28th of August against Salford. A nice 1-0 win there. Traore, the hero, but they really struggled to pick up points. And then I believe they sack their manager around this point, which allows them to kick on, do slightly better, and avoid relegation in their first season. And then in the most recent season, they were a lot more consistent, getting a lot more wins very early on, making it to the second round of the leasing.com trophy North. I hate the name of that trophy. But they did actually manage to finish with 60 points in that season. So doing very well and establishing themselves as a league football team. You can see they finished 12th in the end, 62 points. Not too far off the playoffs. So we'll be hoping they can kick on and do better there. You can see the previous season down in 20th place, 10 points clear of Burton Albion. If we drop down to the Vanarama National League and just have a look at their league table, you can see they did finish as champions, 6 points clear there. The previous season, finishing down in 7th in the playoffs, only just creeping in. And then in the National League North, if we have a look at their league table, going back to this season, they won the title here, 9 points clear with 105. Very comfortable position at the top, and a long way from the bottom of the table. It did take them a while to get there, though. You can see 9th, 7th, 11th, 10th, and then down in 16th in their first season. So they did well to make sure they didn't get relegated in their first season, which has happened before with this experiment. And it means they have progressively climbed up the league table. Now, what I will do is just have a look at their club information, if I can find it. We've just gone up too far, haven't we? Let me go back down, or up rather, to League 2, go back to their table. There is definitely a quick way to do this, like typing the name in. But you can see that Lewis Craig, their current manager, Ryan Huddart in the club as well. A nice consistent rise up the league table. If we have a look though at their landmark history, you can see there's been a little bit of upheaval. They've had a couple of chairmans come in, one as a local businessman, one as a consortium, changing the nature of the club a little bit, but they do still have the money they had at the start. You can see they've been upgrading their youth and training facilities. They did turn professional pretty quickly, and they've since increased the capacity of their stadium after moving to Kingston Park for a little bit, now up to 6,000. But most importantly, they have failed their financial fair play regulations, which is a little bit unfortunate for them. If we do just have a quick look at their managerial history, you can see Lee Clark made it through 4 years before being sacked. And it was actually Dean Wright who got them their 2 promotions. He did very well, currently unemployed, which seems a little bit harsh. But he got them their 2 promotions before being sacked. And then Lewis Craig came in for 1 year so far and still at the helm. But what I'm going to do is just make myself the manager of Blyth and see the details of their club finances. So if we do this, just get past this intro screen that they put in there now, and go to their finances, you can see they've currently got £455 million in the bank. It's been going down, not by much, about 1-2 million every year, starting to speed up towards the end. This is their projection anyway. No, this is the past performance over the last 5 years. Big dips where their bonuses and various other costs have been being paid. £5 million. I mean, that number's going down as they try to comply with financial fair play. But their income nowhere near their expenditure, and it has led to them failing financial fair play Income-wise, all of their income comes from interest on the cash they hold in their bank account. Only about a 1% interest rate, but still a good hunk of money. £1 million in gate receipts, the next best thing, but expenditure much, much higher than that. 8 million on player wages, 6 million being fiddled out the club as miscellaneous expenses. I mean, if I had 6 million worth of petty cash compared to the income received, I'd probably try and take a closer look at where that money's going. Bonuses, £3 million paid out there, £500,000 on staff wages, £500,000 on tax and various other things. And then if we just have a look at their wages summary, you can see their wage expenditure over time was reasonably consistent, but then the promotions kicked in and it's gone to 200k now, and is somewhat unsustainable. It's far too big for what they're allowed under financial fair play. And if we look at the summary here, you can see they're spending 180 grand and they need to cut it by £100,000 a week in order to comply with the regulations. That's going to be quite difficult to do. And it means at the moment they're under a transfer embargo. They can still sign players on loan and as free players, but they can't do much more than that. And if we have a look at the squad, you'll see the wage bill, for the most part, is going on 4 or 5 players. And they are good players, but you wouldn't say that they're that much better than the other players that they've got in the team. And certainly not for the amount of money they're being paid. If you look at their wage compared to the value of 1.6, 1.7k, that is a dangerous place to be in. I mean, this guy's being paid 27.5 grand. He's only worth 375 quid. He doesn't do that well. He is the captain, but he's gone from playing for Bromley to Blyth, and now he's getting paid 27.5k a week. It's crazy money. I assume he had a big promotion pay rise in his contract, but that is really leaving the club struggling for cash, and they've got quite a few players in here who are in a similar boat, and they just need to offload them, but it's going to be very difficult to do, and I can't actually see them doing that. If we do have a look quickly at the transfers that they've had over the last few years, you can see the amount of money here has been going up, but now it's come back down because of financial fair play. Very little money being spent early on, 23k, and then 175k as they started to try and kick out of the league. 425k here, 250 on Andy West from Stoke. Not sure what he's up to. He's still at the club, probably getting paid a huge wage. He is on, he's only on 5k a week. That's not too bad. But then 850k, 500k on Scott Skyers, who is on 23 grand a week, and he hasn't even played that well for them. And that's where the money froze up after their 500k, 43k, and then nothing and nothing because of the transfer embargo. So how they get out of this, I don't know. It does leave a question open though, as to should we edit the club details. Now, I think adding more money in isn't going to do anything because it will get lost in tax. They'll have 400, 500 million pounds left in the bank, and they'll still be under financial fair play. I don't think that's a solution. I think instead what we could do is max their reputation out, and that allows them to bring in great quality players when they can. It also allows them to bring in the best managers, staff, all the rest of it, which should allow them to compensate for the impact that financial fair play has on the club, because they'll have better teams, better staff, better coaches. They'll make better decisions about investing in the club. So I think that's the key to unlocking this and moving things on at a little bit of a quicker pace. Otherwise, we are going to take 80, 90 years to get into the Champions League and further on because of financial fair play. So let me know what you think down in the comments. Do drop a like on the video if you want to see another part to this experiment, and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. But until next time, see ya.